Absolutely. Thank you. Now we're coming back just now. Good people, if you're joining us right now, this is time for Insight Tonight. And tonight we want to talk about water, specifically leveraging water for peace. The premise of all this is we all share water. Water is life. But in many parts of the world, in many parts of this country, conflict over water is something that is in existence. Sometimes water actually makes existing conflicts worse. Sometimes water, or the lack of it, creates in itself a new conflict. But we have with us tonight somebody whose entire existence, whose expertise is water. We have Dr. Julius Itunga from WASREB, the Water Services Regulatory Board. Karibu sana. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Victor.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
You know, when we were telling people about this interview, when we were doing the promotion and everything, people who are asking, oh, there's actually a board that regulates water services. Why don't you help us understand, and the Kenyans who are watching at home, what exactly is WASREB all about?
Thank you, Victor. And thank you for having me. As you've just put it, water is life. Mm-hmm. Water is what unites all human beings. Right. Among other things, of course. Mm-hmm. But water is central to, to our lives. Mm. WASREB is a regulatory state corporation established under the Water Act 2002 mm-hmm. and later retained in the Water Act 2016 mm-hmm. after the new constitution. Mm-hmm. And therefore, WASREB has been in existence for about 20 years now.
Wow. Okay.
The main object of WASREB is to regulate water services. Mm-hmm. In the water sector, we have two regulators. Water Resource Authority that regulates the resource, the water resource itself.
So maybe you can help us understand, what, for our audiences, what's the difference between a water resource and water services?
Now, the water resource basically is those bodies where water is found, lakes, be it in the lakes, in the rivers, in the dams, ocean, in the, mm-hmm. before it is extracted. Mm-hmm. And, prepared for consumption, either as drinking water or industrial water or water for irrigation.
So that means water as it exists naturally?
Naturally, that is the responsibility of Water Resource Authority.
WRA?
WRA. It's our sister state corporation. Okay. We are both under the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, established under the Water Act 2016 mm-hmm. To regulate water resource and then water services. Yes.
So now water services.
Getting to water services basically begins from the point where the water has been extracted mm-hmm. from its source, mm-hmm. from the water bodies, be it surface water or underground water. Mm-hmm. Underground water basically from the boreholes,
boreholes and everything,
as we
wells,
know them. And mm-hmm. then of course there's surface water, mm-hmm. rivers, lakes, mm-hmm. and so on, mm-hmm. and even the ocean, of course, where we do desalination.
Right.
So the moment that water now is processed mm-hmm. for use. Mm-hmm. And it's stored either in a dam or in a reservoir somewhere mm-hmm. of whatever kind, mm-hmm. then the water service. Now,
they come in.
Right. Come in.
Right.
And the way the water, of course, now the regulator comes in mm-hmm. To make sure that there is fair play in the sector, mm-hmm. that consumers of water are not exploited, mm-hmm. mainly by the service providers, mm-hmm. and to make sure that the quality of water, the price set for water retailing, mm-hmm. And the access to water mm-hmm. is regulated mm-hmm. to that extent.
Okay.
So that you and me and Wanjiko and Akinyi and everybody else in this country can enjoy that right, which is enshrined in our Constitution under Article 43.
Right.
So That's the main objects of the Water Service Regulatory Board.
Okay. So you basically, if I'm hearing you right, you look after the interests of the public, the water consumers.
The water consumers.
As well as people who actually offer these services.
Sure.
So licensing?
Yeah, we license. We recommend and approve tariffs after, elaborate public participation. Then we monitor compliance to various set standards. We also set standards for water service provision, water quality and governance standards, tariffs, and so on. So after we prescribe that and we have licensed a water service provider, then we keep monitoring to make sure that they are operating in accordance with the license that we have issued them with. And as you may be aware, Victor, water services is an devolved function as per Constitution, Schedule 4.
That's right.
But regulation is a national government function. So the water service providers, the water companies, are agents of the county governments. However, we have a few private providers who do it in their own rights, and we also license them.
All right.
Yeah.
And you make sure they're operating.
They are operating within the rules of the game.
Right.
Yes.
Now, clearly, there's many stakeholders here. There's the private providers, service providers, the state, county service providers. There's also the consumers and so many other people in between.
Sure.
Would you care to tell us what role WASRA plays in dealing with all these different people to make sure everyone is happy?
Sure.
How do you keep everyone happy and straight?
It's a balancing act. Not easy, but that's what we exist to do, to balance the interests of all the stakeholders in the value chain of water services. From the county government, they have their interests, the national governments, they have their interests, the community have their interests, the company that has been established by the county government, they have their interests because they are semi-autonomous institutions.
They have a right to make their own decisions.
Yes, they have a board. They have a right to make their decisions. They have a right to decide how to, navigate through as they implement their mandates, and so on and so forth. They are suppliers. They are, like now we are getting into the bulk water space. We of course looking forward to private investors in the water space. They are development partners. They have their, of course, conditions, the way they would want to see the whatever project they support implemented. We have, everybody has an interest in water services.
Everyone has in fact,
everyone.
I dare say, the kind of job you describe sounds to be very difficult because, it requires Solomonic wisdom. Can you imagine? First of all, you have a resource that is scarce.
Yes.
That is on very high demand.
Yeah,
and very, very valuable. And then you have all these interests.
Sure.
And then there's communities, there's people that believe they have ownership over this resource. Others feel they have first rights, to access this resource. Then you have others who are trying to profit from this resource. There are others who also are trying to exploit. What sort of strategies do you apply in making sure that water conflict does not turn out to be a water war, for example?
Sure.
Where somebody shuts off the tap and says, okay, if you don't accept my rules, you're not getting water. What kind of strategies do you apply?
What we've done, the first step is where we establish standards for water service provision, where it is very clear, as we establish these standards, we involve each and every stakeholder. And from the onset, we are in agreement that this is what we want to achieve. We have a common objective. We've tried as much as possible to rally all the stakeholders together so that we are focused on the same goal. And of course, the stakeholder theory, everybody has their own interests, and everybody would want to maximize on their interests.
That's right.
But the bottom line here is, as you put it, water is scarce, is finite. And therefore, we all agree that we need to use it in a manner that unites us, as opposed to, causing conflict.
Right.
And now in the process, in the decision-making process, with consultative, the consultative approach really helps us a lot. Although, of course, there are isolated cases where at times we are unable to agree, but where we are unable to agree, then we use the law, because there is a law which is in place, the Water Act 2016. We have other instruments in place to help us navigate through those very, very difficult situations. But the main one, consultation, capacity building, so that we are all reading from the same page, creating awareness, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one interesting fact is that about 3 billion people in the world actually live around water resources that have to be shared.
Sure.
But another fact is that maybe 20 to 25 countries only in the world actually have agreements with their neighbors over the water bodies that actually exist on both sides of the border, sharing. Can you talk to us a little bit about this, I believe we call it transboundary agreements and so on. Talk to us a little bit about how WASREB has what role it's played in making sure that Kenya exists well with our neighbors in terms of sharing the resources that the Father in Heaven has given us. Also, even among counties and communities. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. As I did mention, basically the water resource is within the purview of another sister institution, but in the spirit of one government approach.
Right.
We have a department in our ministry called Transboundary Department that deals mainly with the water resources that cross to other neighboring countries, and their protocols are now to deal with that situation. For us, our mandate is limited to the country, within the country. And what we normally do is where they are cross county, for instance, because there has been those challenges.
Yeah, there's been a few.
Murang'a, Nairobi,
for example,
Nyandarua, Nairobi. Like Nairobi city has no source of its own, other than the groundwater.
Right.
Water comes from Nyandarua, Susumu Dam. The other amount
and
comes from Dakaine
and so on in Murang'a.
And that's really is the bulk proportion that Nairobi receives. So what we put in place measures to that the water resource basically is a national asset. It doesn't belong to any county. So Nairobi can be able to get water from Murang'a, from Nyandarua, from any other county. If Machakos also managed to get develop our source, they won't share.
Right.
And we've not had any problems with this. They are very clear. There are very clear agreements in place towards that. Like for instance, Mombasa. The coast counties, most of the water comes, water from Mombasa, like Nairobi, Mombasa doesn't have its own source.
Right.
Water comes from Kware, it comes from Taita Taveta, it comes from Kilifi. But the agreements, or now they share. How, the resource is shared. And this is an area that the national government and the county governments, through our, intermediary approach, managed to contain.
Right.
And we've not had any. Of course, there will be noise here and there,
right,
particularly during times of scarcity on how they share the resource.
Right.
But as a country, we've not had any serious problem on that front.
Right.
The other aspect, what we've done is where there is a bulk system, then the law provides that the counties form what we call a joint authority to oversee the functioning of those systems.
And I imagine the membership is...
Yes, won't be from the 3 counties or 4 counties and so on.
Okay.
But we've seen some challenges in that arrangement. At times, the counties have different views, and therefore it becomes quite difficult to agree. So in that situation, what we've done, we have national water agencies, what we call the water works and development agencies, like your neighbor here has the water.
Yes.
Works and development agency.
Oh, so that's the role they play.
So they, a transitory role as the counties organize themselves. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are mechanisms in place. Okay. We license them, and then they enter into an agreement, bulk water, supply agreements with the respective water companies within the counties, and that is clearly supervised by us. Yeah.
Right. So then they say sometimes you require local solutions for local problems. So talk to us about how WASREB not just identifies, but if indeed at all they support or encourage community-led solutions or community-led interventions into water challenges, as well as community-led attempts at trying to secure, water supply and water services and so on.
Sure. Actually, this afternoon, before I came here, and in discussion or an engagement with a task force from Machakos County.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, led by Engineer Magiti, who is the advisor to the governor of Machakos County.
Yes, indeed.
And what they are looking at is how can they make water supply systems in Machakos more efficient. And really my advice to them was we need, ours will be advisory, but the solution has to be to originate from the community. Local, what we would call local solutions or local grown solutions. And that has always been our, our line of thoughts. We allow the county government to plan for the county. They come, we sit together, we discuss, we agree, and they implement.
All right.
The same is going on in Murang'a. In your opening remarks.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
You talked about Murang'a County.
Yes, Murang'a,
which has been quite problematic over time.
Muasco, Muswasco.
And all those stories.
All the Wascos.
Yes, all the Wascos. Yes. Murang'a has about 5 companies.
Wow. It's quite a lot.
Quite a lot. And basically, our licensing is on commercial viability. And we've had discussions with the county leadership, and our advice is please sit as a county, agree, and then come to us. So if you need any technical advice, we are ready to offer, but the solution should be local.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not like you're imposing.
No, we don't impose at all.
I see. So now, there were some questions that came to us a little earlier from our viewers. Please let us know if this is something you can address.
Okay.
Somebody's asking, why is my water bill getting higher?
Wow.
What would you say to that?
The water bill is getting higher because of the macro environment. I'm sure your hospital bill is getting higher wherever you visit any hospital. Your electricity bill is getting higher wherever.
Every Kenyan is feeling everything, every bill. Even our barbers and the ladies who go to the salon keep saying the cost is high.
So, we are operating in the same microenvironment, and we are affected by the same factors that are affecting the other sectors. And more so, in many places, water is pumped, particularly where we have boreholes and where gravity is not very good. Even where there is, you find the reservoir is in a hill somewhere, so the water is pumped from a raw level or raw ground to the reservoir, and then it is distributed through gravity. So the cost of electricity.
That's one of the culprits.
One of the main drivers
for our bill. Water. Next time we should have good people. We should have the Kenya Power and the Ketrako people and Kengen, all of those guys.
Yes.
We ask them questions.
Yes.
And one of the questions we'll ask is, why is our water bill getting higher?
Why is their bill getting, higher and higher? And by extension, it impacts on
everyone else.
The same with the chemicals that treat water.
Oh, yes, indeed.
There are chemicals that treat water, and most of it is important. So you know where the shilling has come from.
That's right.
So the forex.
It affects.
It affects. So the issues of the issues, of course, of climate change. Our water has become more turbid, more dirty than it used to be. So you need more resources to clean it and make it potable. Yeah.
Indeed, that was my next question. How has the ongoing challenge of climate change, and I think you've mentioned one way, but what other ways have you seen climate change affecting your service, your work as WASREB, and the quality, which is one of the things you control, the quality of water that Kenyans receive and water service?
To start, the quality. Actually, both the quality and the quantity. Because with climate change, there are spells of, during the drought season, the commodity becomes more scarce. Yeah? And as it becomes scarce, when volumes are, when volumes decline, it affects everything in the operations of the water company. Yeah? Because if possibly your demand is, let's say, 100,000 meter cube, and you're only able to extract maybe 20.
Right.
Yeah. So the systems in some areas will not work because they rely on pressure. Number two, the costs. You'll not be able to realize the cost from the 20 meter cube to meet your operational costs.
That's right.
Yeah. Then number three, the quality of water. Again, on the other side, when it rains heavily, it carries with it all the impurities from wherever.
All from the surface and everywhere.
From the surface, that you start seeing brown water in your taps. We have to clean it, and by cleaning it, it requires more inputs to make it potable.
I see.
The color that you want, the level, devoid of physical bacteria and the chemical impurities.
That's right. I see.
So it requires more input, and they're becoming expensive. And obviously, with all that, then we need more investments to combat the effect of climate change.
I see.
Therefore, more the revenues, which are not forthcoming, because of the raw volume.
The other challenges that exist.
That come with it.
Wow. Yeah. Looks. We can see how clearly one thing relates to another. Here's another question. Now, and then clearly we have a lot to talk about, because water, there's so many questions, so many points that are coming in. But here's something. The World Water Day. The theme is leveraging water for peace.
For peace.
From where you sit and from where your organization sits,
yes.
How are you interacting with this theme? How are you intending to embody this theme for this year? Talk to us a little bit about that as we wind up.
Thank you so much. Indeed, tomorrow is World Water Day. And this is a day which is celebrated world over. It started from the year 1993. That's when the United Nations Assembly basically made that decision that we set aside a day to celebrate water. And it's about 30 years now. 30 plus actually, almost 31 years.
31 years.
Or call it 30 years. And basically it's to use water as a unifying factor, as we did mention earlier. Water is one commodity that every other person on earth requires.
That's right.
For various reasons, starting from the very basic ones, being a basic need for survival, being a factor of production. You can't talk of any production without water. So it's really the main driver and the enabler of all the, human activities, commercial, industrial, name it. And therefore, the need for the people world over to be united and ensure really that this commodity water is taken care of. And at the same time, we note the continued decline in water bodies, particularly the freshwater bodies.
Right.
I'll give you an example, like a country like Israel. They used to get their water from Lake Galilee, the Sea of Galilee.
The Sea of Galilee.
But they realized that it was, being depleted at a very, very fast rate.
Right, yeah.
So what they did, they quickly thought, what we do? They started now getting water from the Mediterranean Sea, go through desalination and so on and so forth, and also, of course, supply to the neighbors so that they are able to conserve the Sea of Galilee and the the retro wells that exist,
I see.
The natural ones. So water really is one commodity that unites humanity, and it is finite, and therefore the need to make sure that we conserve it, because without water there will be
no life.
No life.
Water is life, and without it, there is no life.
Yeah, sure.
Now, quickly, as swift as you can, maybe 10, 15 seconds, this is your camera.
Okay.
A message to the country, World Water Day, or whatever it is that you wish to share, a message to the country. There you are.
Thank you, Victor. My message, World Water Day, tomorrow as we celebrate, is to appeal to all Kenyans to conserve water, to use it in the best way possible. And number two, our main challenge as a country, we've a big challenge on non-revenue water. Water that we produce, about 45% of water that we produce, we don't know where it ends to as a country. But I know we know.
Right.
It doesn't just disappear.
It doesn't go.
So my appeal is let's all be, fair to each other. Let's pay for water. Let's conserve it. Let's report wherever we find it running to waste, and the authorities will take the necessary action.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Victor.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Asante. I wish you the best in your duties at WASREP.
Thank you so much.
Just before we leave, good people, up next is VAR. But before that, food production in the country can be increased by at least 40% by increasing access to water in high-yielding areas. How so? Through bulk water storage that would push for triple cropping, a concept apparently that would increase yields by 300% from such areas, reducing importation of food and high dependence on one type of crop. And of course, the National Irrigation Authority Chair, Engineer Gilbert Maluki, reckons that by May of this year, apparently, the model Mwea irrigation scheme will have expanded by at least 10,000 acres and by 25,000 acres over time. But what are some of the issues that still, the county of Kirinyaga rather, performing at a third of its potential? What are the issues that are causing this? For one, the scavenging of something called quelea birds. The quelea birds apparently are causing big problems there. So we, as TV47, delved into the extensive rice fields of Mwea, and we bring you the following report. We'll leave you with that as our good CEO, Dr. Itunga, and I bid you farewell and good night, and may God bless you. We'll leave you with that report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victor.
Right. Good evening.
Through the rice paddies of Mwea in Kirinyaga County, what one would call the beating heart of Kenya's food production, comes about 50% of total rice produced in the country. And this rhythm crescendos at the water source in the eye of this storm, Thiba Dam. This very dam that pumps through the dips and marshes of one of the most fertile lands in this country. So what ails Mwea irrigation scheme, gazetted to cover 30,350 acres of land, the residents of this region work tirelessly to produce hundreds of thousands of metric tons worth of rice, 10% of which are lost to quelea birds and an insurmountable amount more unachieved when Thiba Dam overflows.
It has been a bit of some shame, if I can say, because we say we are an agricultural country, yet we still have insufficient food that we get. But through the effort of the farmers, through the effort of the National Irrigation Authority and other agencies in government, the government has put up effort to ensure that all what the farmers require to ensure that we produce enough food is actually being put in place.
To reduce pressure on Thiba Dam, canals have been put in place to channel the water across the landscape, ironically suffering from an excess of what others deem a luxury to get.
So far, farmers are doing double cropping, which is very encouraging. Initially, they used to do one cropping season before Thiba Dam. But once the Thiba Dam came in, the farmers have been able to do double cropping, which in other words means that increase in production and also reducing the rice deficit in the country.
There also lurks in the horizon the possibility of the 52 million metric ton capacitated Nyamindi Dam being set up, a beacon of unending hope for the resident farmers who see nothing but an endless profit from the prospect.
So tukipata hiyo itakuwa bonus mzuri.
We can proudly say the farmers have really embarked on farming, because the whole idea is that we want to reduce the rice deficit in the country.
For almost 150,000 households in this county, the small quelea birds flocking the sky pushes against their production goals each season.
Other technologies are coming, which we believe will in due course we should be able to put in our scheme so that it helps to control these quelea birds.
Known to consume up to 20 tons of grain in 24 hours, these birds have single-handedly compromised yields by up to 15% in certain seasons. The solution, curbing the problem at the source.
The government is seriously also partnering with the county governments and other agencies of government to ensure that we preempt before they come and attack our crop. We should be able to preempt by spraying where they are roosting. And that has helped in the last few years. We've seen a very positive effort.
Farmer sensitization on the need to push for crop rotation is advised as well.
Because it saves you money from rotation, transplanting. When you are newly doing it, it's more expensive.
This region is raft with the hope of solving the food deficit in the country. A country ambitious enough to want to export when currently running on deficits. Thiba Dam is one of the dams that is facilitating the production of over 50% of rice. But now there's a new concept, triple cropping. What exactly does this mean for farmers, and what could this mean to ensure that there is food sustainability within the country?
We have done the main crop, that is we harvested in December. We have done Latun, much of it was harvested last month. Now we are on the second ratoon, and many of us are going to the double crop.
So now the country perches its hope of being food secure to Mwea, one of the remaining pillars upon which agricultural productivity stands on.
Vile tuliongezewa maji pale, tunaona inatusaidia sana kwa sababu tunaona tunachuna mchere mingi kuliko hapo mbeleni.
Hibak Said for TV 47.